things. You look at your first menu, you go like, I put that on the menu. That's horrible.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking?
But people can buy that themselves. Why are they sitting in your restaurant? Food has to be fun. And sometimes when we do fine dining, we take the fun away from it all. You're going to be miserable. Everybody around you is going to be miserable. You're going to live a very short and unhappy life.
Okay, hey guys, welcome to the, second. I don't know if you call this the second or the first. One or the other. So the first one was me just literally talking to myself on the camera. When I was doing it, I must say that I was full of confidence. I was like, oh my God, I'm so good at this. And then when I rewatched myself, oh my God, it was the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's always difficult watching yourself and hearing yourself on tape.
Honestly, I've never had that because obviously I've never filmed myself. So the only time I've ever been in front of camera was during the 2 episodes of Top Chef, and when people do content. But to actually sit there, because the first EP was filmed for an hour. It was so cringe. I've never felt uncomfortable. I'm normally a very comfortable person in my own skin. But when I saw that for the first time, I was like... So this is, Ah Oui Chef Podcast. The name, I wanted to call it Oui Chef, but it was already taken. Just putting it out there, being completely honest. So the reason I mainly wanted to do this podcast is when we go through our industry, especially, when we started a decade and a half ago, there wasn't really this genre of content. Knowledge wasn't really available. Cookbooks were not what they are now. The internet and social media, was only just starting and definitely didn't even enter the gastronomic world either. And I feel like every industry, in other industries now, they have almost people that they can turn to. When you have business entrepreneurs who are making content and sharing it, spiritual leaders who are making content and sharing it, and with everything else as well. And I feel like for F&B, especially chefing, there's very few. You have the guy from 11 Madison, Will, who has started doing that since he left 11 Madison with his book and everything else. But I feel like, for chefs, there really isn't much because it's difficult, right? Because we're very protective of our brand. So putting ourselves out there it can be a double-edged sword, especially when you really honestly talk about it in relation with business and stuff. But secondly, also chefs are very, in my opinion, very fickle creatures. We really keep to ourselves and our circles, and I wanted to break that. I want this podcast to be something young, aspiring chefs or F&B personnel. We'll start off as chef, but we'll probably branch out sooner or later because if I'm being completely honest, we'll probably run out of chefs soon. But the thing is, we start off as chef because this is what I am, and this is what we are. So I want it to be something, someone who is just starting or is, and the good thing about this podcast, I feel, and we will talk about it it's you could be in different stages of your career. You could literally be an intern, leaving school, leaving your house for the first time, and, you can revert to this podcast. Or you could be a CDP, jumping into a management role for the first time, and then you can revert to the podcast. Or you could be a chef, an executive chef for 10, 15 years, and then you're doing your first business for the first time. And that will be this podcast as well. My goal, and the people that I invite in, everyone will have a niche that I feel will be interesting to talk about and share. But at the end of the day, I wanted to really feel like it's a conversation between two friends, And I've been lucky enough to call this particular person a dear friend for a while. And honestly, your journey, and you were the first choice I had for the first EP. You tick so many boxes for me.
No pressure.
No, but it's true. You tick so many boxes for me. And first and foremost, I've been a huge fan. Huge fan. So,
hi, I'm Garima a chef of restaurant Gaa in Bangkok. Originally from India, but for all practical purposes, Thailand is home now. And happy to be here and happy to be with Doc.
So, Chef Garima from Gaa. So I always would like to start the series with, just asking. Obviously, a lot of people watching this podcast first will already have an idea about who you are. But there'll be a few that don't. So let's start from the very beginning. Very, very quickly, within 30, 30 seconds, just from birth to where you are now in a space of, cram it in your own words.
So, of course, born in India, born in a city called Hyderabad. Grew up between Mumbai and Delhi. Studied journalism in Mumbai. Worked as a journalist for a very, very short stint.
You were a journalist?
Yes, I wasn't a very good one, I'd be honest. Very short stint, but cooking was always something, food was something I always loved. And somewhere along the line, I started cooking, fell in love with cooking, fell in love with feeding people. I think that's what it was. And yeah, one thing led to another. I quit my journalism job a year into it and moved to Paris. Since then, I've lived in different countries, worked in different restaurants, sometimes legally, sometimes not, but
Really?
all to get experience. And finally, life brought me to Bangkok by chance. It was never in the plan. I always have a plan, right? Where Bangkok was never in the plan. It was a quick pit stop. It was supposed to be a month, 2 months, and that was 9 years ago, and here I am.
Oh, wow. So you came to Thailand roughly the same time as me then?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think we started around the same time when you had Freebird.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow. I thought you'd been here a while.
No.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
I mean, 9 years, 9 years is a while, but
Yeah. No, it is a while now. But I've always assumed that you had your ground here. I didn't know you were a journalist.
Yeah.
I also didn't know that you lived in Paris. How long
Yeah.
were you in Paris for?
2 years?
Oh, wow.
A little less than 2 years, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. And being Asian, I had to ask because it was a big factor for me. How did your parents take it when you told them that you were going to cook?
I have the best parents in the world, and especially my dad. He's my mentor. He's my best friend. He's everything a child could ask for in a parent. So imagine growing up in the 90s, right? There was a certain expectation from women, from girls. He never subscribed to that. He never taught me any of that or never brought that home, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, this is a story I love telling. I was, I think, maybe 13 or 14 years old, right? This is when, women get married at the age of 20, 21. My mother was that age, and she expected me to get married at that age as well.
Oh, really?
But I was 14 or 15, and I loved going out and eating at restaurants, and I get that from my father. He loves that. He loves living life. He took me to a 5-star hotel back in Mumbai, and we went to a Lebanese restaurant. I think it was maybe the first time I ate Lebanese food. And of course, I loved it, and he saw that I loved it, right? And as we were going down the lobby, my brother, he's younger, 7 years younger, and my mother walking up ahead. And then he came up to me and he's like, "Did you enjoy that?" I said, "Yeah, I loved it. Thank you, Dad." He said, "You know what the bill was?" He showed me the bill. And he said that if you want to eat like this every night for the rest of your life, this is how much money you should earn every month. He doesn't remember this story, but that number is stuck in my head and was
Really?
forever stuck in my head. I was like, okay, I have to make so much money too. But this is something I need to do in life. So financial independence, importance of being independent, working, earning a living, he put that in my head. This is just a small little thing, but vacations were always working at his office, doing data entry for him. That's how I earned my first mobile phone. Yeah, it was, I had to earn everything through work with him. I mean...
What did your parents do?
He organizes events and exhibitions, B2B events and exhibitions back in India. Both of them work together, my parents. So, yeah, they have a business that they run themselves. My mother shows up whenever she wants to. Because she's the boss. Like my dad says, she's the boss. Boss shows up whenever she wants to.
My parents are exactly the same. My mom signs the checks, and she drops.
That's it.
She drops in the office whenever she wants.
Yeah.
And then she always used the school errands as an excuse.
Right.
Even though we never see her at school.
Yeah.
She's always late. Yeah. Okay.
But that's great, right? You learn both things from your parents. You learn, from my mother, I learned to enjoy life, not to take everything too seriously all the time. But from my father, I learned discipline. I learned the importance of showing up and committing and seeing things through. Closure, importance of closure in anything and everything you do. That's what I learned from him.
What you just said there, I think, can resonate with so many people. And it's really the topic that I really want to dig into, because I feel like a lot of, I mean, I don't like to use the word successful because it's not the right metric. You could be super successful and go down the traditional routes of, going to culinary school, working in a corporate restaurant or company, and being an executive chef in a 5-star hotel, and have an amazing life. It's not like you have to be an entrepreneur to be successful. But I say that people who have the entrepreneurial mindset, they always have the same traits, and I love explore. And this is
What traits are those?
Showing up, like you said.
Yeah.
Just sitting. Like, people always talk about. I feel like people overcomplicate what you need to do to get what you want to have, or become who you need to become to get what you kind of like want. They overcomplicate it, but it's actually doing the basics.
Yeah.
It's like cooking. I feel like, being a great chef isn't about doing some witchcraft and, putting bunnies out of thin air. It's
Most of the times.
most of the time, yeah. I think we're one of the few that have to be like, I think Chef Charlie said it to me very clearly. He was like, it's one of the few jobs that you have to do almost everything. You're an artist, you're an accountant, you're a business person, you're an entertainer, you're a host, and like the list goes on. And it in some ways, and especially this modern day and age, where you can no longer hide behind your stoves, or very few in especially in our genre of cooking do. You have to really put yourself out there more. And but yeah, like you just said, the traits that your father instilled in you, I think those are exactly things that, showing up. I think people don't realize how retarded it sounds, but how important it is to do always. Showing up is, I feel like it's half the job.
Yeah, you've got to love the struggle.
Yes.
You've got to love the day to day.
Yes.
You can't wake up one day and think, I want to be a chef because whatever, I want to be on that list, I want to win that star, I want to be on TV, or I want to be head chef. That's not the reason you choose this line. You choose it because you've got to show up every day. You somewhat enjoy what you do. You have a little bit of a death wish. Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's a very specific personality type, I think, that enjoys this profession truly.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree with you there. Yeah. And like, because I actually don't listen to a lot of content. There's only like one podcast that there's another place that I like, there's another job that I have, which is in Pattaya. So I actually go down there twice a month.
Yeah.
I actually don't actually see my wife at all now that I think about it. So I go to PP once a month, and then the other. So it's 4 weeks.
This is like a double life you have. What does it say?
It really is.
It's like, do you go by top in Pattaya or in PP? Do you go by top, or is there a different name?
I go by
they
top.
They know you as, I don't know,
and
Pete or.
It's so weird because like when I yes, true. I never talk about it actually. Not many people know. And
let's come clean. Let's tell everybody. What is it that you're hiding there? It's a whole different family.
Yeah, I have kids there.
Yeah, stuff, like dogs and kids and.
Sorry, Michelle. No, it's Oh my God, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, so when I do drive and I have like an hour and only 2 hours, it's the only time that I listen to Stephen Bartlett. He's my absolute all-time hero. He's British. The sense of humor he has is really good. The only problem is he's like, he's a Man United fan. But apart from that, solid. And the content he has, and it's like I listen one by accident, and then I'm like, this guy is. I really synchronize with what he's saying. I have to start from scratch.
Sure.
So for the last year and a half, I've started from scratch, and. And he always talks about fulfillment and happiness and all that kind of like the deeper stuff. And the one thing that always resonates with me, and it's streamlined to what you just said. You can't put a fake mask. Like, I know that from the outside looking in, being a chef in this day and age is hyper glamorized, and what they don't show is the day-to-day stuff, like you said. And sometimes when you go into it seeking that 1% of what is glamorized, and then the other 99, like, cleaning, organizing, mental preparation, dealing with emotions,
dealing with
like
staff,
all the stuff that, the staff, and that's not even talking about business. That's just like being in the kitchen, right? You need to learn to love it. And it's not so much about like, what it is or the journey or even like the destination or whatever. It's like you really need to learn to love the day-to-day stuff. So for you, what I'm always curious about is like, obviously my first episode I talked about self-doubt a lot. So I started as a part-time waiter, but I was in the kitchen for like a few hours cutting all the shitty vegetables. And I remember telling myself, oh my God, I'm so amazing. I'm cutting this cucumber, this red pepper. Last week it took me 12 minutes to cut one. Now it took me 10. I'm getting so good. And I had no clue. So basically they would just give me the prep jobs that no one wanted to do. So before I became a waiter, I was a chef. It was loosely. So then when I switched to full-time chefing, after my parents almost like, they didn't like involuntarily kick me out of the house. That's when you switch from full-time, like a cute full-time high school to actually a paid staff, the pressure was like, I had a lot of self-doubt. Like I remember crying myself to sleep almost 3 times a week the first 6 months. And I'm sure I know that every chef goes through the same process, So when did you decide that you were going to learn to love the things that you hate almost? Like, was there, I know that it's never a switch, but there must have been a moment where, for me, there was a moment that I was so shit until I became bearable. And that jump between, oh my God, you're not going to die, to like, oh, this is okay. It's actually okay. I'm still shit, but I'm getting better. And the progress was, that for me was what was like the biggest fire. I was like, actually, I can get better. And that was what made me fall in love with basically the repetition.
But that's human nature, isn't it? It's overcoming an obstacle. It's overcoming a struggle, and that's what gives life purpose in general. If you have a cushioned life, if you have a happy life, if you don't have struggles to get over and get on the other side of, you'll forever be miserable. The reason this job is so satisfying is because we as human beings need closure, and this gives you that every single day, every single night. You start a service, you finish a service, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. It all adds to the fun of it all, I feel. So, yeah, I mean, you just described why people do anything difficult, whether it's working out, whether it's losing weight, getting fitter, becoming a parent, learning a new language, learning a new skill, whatever it may be. That's why people do it, because it gives you a sense of achievement. And this job, because it's skill-based, right? It does that for you at a much, much bigger scale, more than probably, say, a 9-to-5 job behind a desk does. So that's why it's more satisfying.
I was saying to the camera on my first EP that I'm doing this for selfish reasons, the podcasting. And the most direct reasoning for the selfish reason is I'm going to get so much value out of everyone I'm going to interview. And honestly, just sitting here with you for like, half an hour already, I've already had a good day. And honestly, it sounds cheesy and corny,
That's
but
what I do. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Absolutely. Honestly, it's like, I feel, the way that I feel like comedians are the most intellectual people on this planet. And when you see comedians with their stage face, and then when you see them outside their stage face and you listen to them in interviews, like Jimmy Carr, he's a comedian in the UK, and when you see him on the show, and then when you actually see him in like real life interviews, he's like one of the most intelligent people that I can see, the way that he thinks about life and stuff. And I feel like chefing's, we're very the same. Like it's like onions. There's a lot of layers you got to peel. And so yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I think that is that definitely added value to my knowledge for sure. Okay, so let's rewind. So you actually one of the few people that I know who actually went to Noma and worked there. So I remember coming to Thailand in 2000 and I remember there was a phase. I remember sitting in like Thai Airways or Bangkok Air going to Phuket when I was 2009, 2010, or during that time. I remember reading like the In-Flight magazine, and literally there was like 3 articles with 3 different chefs who were all based here, and all of them had either worked at Elboli, Noma, or somewhere else. And I just remember saying to myself, like, wow, either the journalism during that time was really, really, really crap, or everyone was just working at
That was not the time I was a journalist.
Yeah.
Let me be clear.
'Cause I-
Putting it on the record. It wasn't me.
So how was your time at Noma? How did that start? How did you get through the door? I mean,
It was the best investment I made in myself.
yeah.
I was speaking to Darren yesterday, and we were talking about this whole.
He was there too, right? He was staged there.
I think 2 weeks, a very short stint. That's what he
Okay,
told
okay.
me. But the point is that what we were talking about is this whole controversy about interns not being paid or whatever that was. I don't know whether you're aware of this.
Yeah. I was aware.
So I know I have maybe a more controversial and maybe a more conservative take on it. I think it's free trade of labor. I have the right to give my labor out for money or without money.
I totally agree with you. I think it's a choice.
It's a choice. Nobody put a gun to my head and sent me there.
Absolutely. And I obviously, when you have with the way that it's grown and the volume that you have, you will always have some bad apples. I'm not saying that, but at the end of the day, I think the fact that it is a choice and you chose to go.
Yeah, I chose to go. And I'm digressing a little bit. I'm mentioning this because, of course, I wasn't paid to be there, but it was the best investment I made in myself. What I learned there in those 2 months as an intern, and then I think another year and a half, 2 years or whatever I worked there as a full-time employee, it changed me, not only as a cook, but as a person. It taught me how to think. It taught me how to put in words my thoughts when it comes to food. I think we all taste things, but how many of us can actually put it in words and explain what you were tasting? I think these are things I picked up from there. It taught me the value of where I come from. When I saw what they were doing with such limited produce they had, it took me back to India, which the country I left thinking I'm never going to go back or I'm never going to cook Indian food again, made me think that the amount of produce we have back home, imagine what's possible with that. It's incredible. So
Getting goosebumps.
yeah, so it was, you don't walk away from a restaurant like Noma with recipes. That's stupid. If anybody thinks you're going to go there and write down recipes and walk away, you're missing out.
You're missing the point.
Yeah.
You're really missing.
You have to be there in the moment, be a sponge and absorb everything. Every little thing, you take it in and you walk out a better chef, a better entrepreneur, a better person in so many ways. So the best time I spent, I think, it wasn't easy, man. It wasn't easy. I didn't have a lot of experience when I started work there. I was still.
How did, if you don't mind me, I'm always curious. What do you think? Because you were one of the few that was hired after the internship, and that was quite a low ratio. I mean, I had a friend, Oliver Stevens, who worked in the same hotel, and he was same route as you. He went as an intern. I think it was 3 months or 6 months, and then he was hired. And you said you went in with little experience. That's super impressive. I mean, what made you think that made you stand out from the rest to get a full, because I don't know how Indian passports work. Getting a visa is quite difficult, right? Anywhere.
Yeah, it is. That's what I said. I worked in many places legally and many places illegally, but Noma, of course, I work legally. Let's be clear about that before they get into any trouble. No, that wasn't it. I think in hindsight, I can understand why.
Yeah.
Today, when I employ 40 odd people in my company, I think I understand why. I wasn't tainted. I wasn't in this line to be someone big. That was not in my mind. I was in this line because I wanted to learn. And because I was, say, raw and young when I went to Noma, I had the attitude of keeping my head down and working hard. And I think that is what was appreciated. Maybe, I could be completely wrong, but that's what today I look in for when somebody new comes into the kitchen. I don't care what's on your resume, man, how many years you worked, where you worked, who you worked for. The last thing I look at it is it's your attitude in the kitchen. Because skills can be taught. Attitudes and personalities can't be changed.
No. And what you said there is so, so true. So when I started off in my culinary journey, like everyone did back then, I thought CV stacking was the most important attribute. And, when I...
But it is. For some companies, it is. I have worked for chefs where this really matter. I've gotten opportunities in life because I worked at Noma. So, no, it matters where you come from and where you work. It opens up doors. But the fact that you're able to stay and make most of that opportunity, that comes down to your attitude and your hard work that you're willing.
No, but I mean, like, when for example, because I've never worked anywhere world famous. I worked in some very, very respected restaurants, but and when I entered the realm of fine dining, the world of staging around the world, and then like the 50 best was just starting, and I didn't, I had not, and most importantly, I couldn't afford it. Like, mathematically, I was on a very low wage in London, and I tried to even I did the math. I would have to save up and it was just, and at some point I thought, because I didn't do that, and because I thought everyone had gone through those doors, that big things would never happen for me. And I'm sure that there's a lot of viewers who thought that or went through that same process. And I'm telling you that it like Garima just said, like, it opens doors, but it doesn't mean that it's people look for nowadays. And I find like corporate restaurants, like I won't name names, but I've met some chef friends. I've met some I've hired some people or had the pleasure to be in the company with whose CVs outrip mine. It makes mine look like a primary school teacher. I mean, no offense to primary school. It was like, they were like the professors of Harvard, and I was like, teaching nursery. CV comparison. And then when you get into the kitchen with them, and they just pick up all these bad habits. Not all, but and it's true when you, the CVs don't, I used to think that they reflect a lot more on the chef than they actually do. Because the thing is, when you're in a big brigade in a 3 Michelin star restaurant in the world's biggest name, but you're just picking herbs, or when you're sous chef in a 1 star, but you're managing a small team doing high volume, and the cooking and the precision is still tight, and on paper, the person with the especially people outside of the industry, F&B directors or hotels or even corporate chefs or big companies, they don't see that. But then when you put them in the kitchen, I feel so that's what I'm trying to say. For people who view it, as you said, attitude is the one singular most important trait that you look for now. And sort of when we were fortunate enough to get a star at Mia, and this is actually something I've never said on screen before, I don't think. I wasn't proud of the fact that we had gotten the star. What I was more proud of is that Michelle and I got a star with 9 full-time staff, and I think 3 interns at the time. And out of 9 staff, only 1 of them had prior experience. And they were all Thai. And we got to start cooking Western food. And, to be recognized by Michelin, who was obviously a French guide for cooking essentially French food with Asian flavors. I remember sitting in the car with Michelle driving back from the gala before I got absolutely shit-faced. Sorry about that, Michelle. That's a whole other story for another time. And I was saying, it didn't hit me until I was like, holy shit, we got it. We received one with essentially 8 first time. And the one guy who did have experience, I think he worked at a bar in Tonglo cooking, French fries and burgers. And and it was the attitude, like you said. And I think a lot of people need to hear that because I feel like you can learn anything from anywhere. And and it's not about where you are, it's about how much you take in. So if Noma is giving out 1,000 QI points, and then another restaurant in Copenhagen is giving 500. But if you go to Noma and you're closed-minded and you don't take it all in, and you only take 300, and another person who goes to the 500-point one, but takes everything in and takes away 450 points in a sense, like a metric sense, you're better off, and it's about how much you take in. So after Noma, obviously, you came to Thailand and you worked with Gagan. And so, he was obviously probably the most famous Indian chef at the time. I mean, still is. And then that was how was Gaa born? I mean, if you don't mind me asking. How was it? Was it a conversation? Was it a...
So the idea was I moved to Thailand from Copenhagen, wanting to move back to Mumbai.
Oh.
And Gagan was opening a restaurant in Mumbai, is looking for a head chef, and that was supposed to be me. So I came, the idea was I came in to Bangkok for a couple of months to spend some time in his restaurant and then move to India and run his place in India. That restaurant never happened. Meanwhile, I met the investors, Gagan included, and the others at Gagan. And they said, okay, if you're not going to India, meanwhile, I'd spend like almost 6-7 months, so they'd gotten to know me a little bit. And they said that, or if you want to stay back and open your own restaurant here, that could be an option. And by that time, I'd fallen in love with Bangkok, with Thailand.
What made you fall in love with Bangkok?
I mean, there are a lot of things, a lot of reasons. I met some amazing people here, met some amazing chefs, made some friends. The produce, the ingredients, everything was great. But what made me really stay was this connection between India and Thailand that I discovered only when I moved here. Nobody had ever spoken to me about it, and nobody had ever said anything about it. And I was quite surprised. And I thought am I imagining this? The language is similar, the people, the culture is so similar, the gods are the same, the mythology, the religion, everything is same. Why doesn't anybody talk about it? I think that intrigued me the most. And then for me, it just became a great spot or a great backdrop to explore modern Indian food. And that's why I decided to stay back.
I remember Gaa opening, and it was something that especially the original food, because obviously the food evolution you've had, and which is something that I definitely want to tap into later. I remember looking at it and being like, wow, that it really resonated with me, because it was the reason I moved back to Thailand. I mean, so this is going to sound really bad, and I've never ever said this to anyone in public, but I literally was on a flight to Singapore 2 weeks after I got my British passport. And it wasn't planned. It sounds really bad, and it sounds like, I had spent, like, my parents were bugging me to get a British passport for forever. And I did the test, I did my naturalization and everything. I might get in trouble, I don't know. And it was just like, I came here in 2010 during Volk, and I was stuck in Bangkok by accident. I hated Bangkok. As a kid growing up in Phuket, we're very protective. We're like Dek Thai, Southerners and Bangkok people. Like, what do you have there? Shopping malls, Paragon, fucking overrated shit. And then when I was stuck here because it was like a volcano eruption, I had been a chef for like only 2 or 3 years. I was like, okay, let's go eat. I was like, okay, where so I back then there was, you just go on Google and then you write top 10 restaurants in Bangkok, and there was just nothing. I think it was like 2009 or something. It was nothing, absolutely nothing. And I was like quite shocked, because on the outside world, Bangkok is a huge international stage. Like, the amount of attention it gets as a city. It's the most visited city in the world. Paragon is the most photographed place in the world. And, just like everyone knows it. And for a city of that status, especially in F&B, we are known. We are the mecca of hospitality. Capella was just voted #1 best hotel in the world. So many 5-star brands were born in Thailand. We are literally the land of spa. We are. So for a fine dining restaurant of international caliber that didn't exist back then, I was shocked. And the ones that were successful were all Italian steakhouses, very generic. And the most popular restaurant was the food I grew up eating that was Western in Phuket, even though it was a wine connection. And I was like, wow, and the local talent as well. Like, it's very different now, but back then, the moment you get to like sous chef or like executive sous chef, everyone was Caucasian. There was no local talent really. And I was very curious of like, why? And that was why I was like, against my parents' wishes again, I was like, maybe I should come back. Because like you said, having a Thai passport is extremely difficult. And Indian passport is extremely difficult to work overseas. And same, I felt guilty that the doors open for me that would have not otherwise open. And the fact that I was very self-aware of this from the very beginning of my career, I think had helped a lot. It kept me grounded, Because for sure, like, even if I had been the same person, same mentality, same work rate, ethnic, even harder, even, even if I took all the shots that were given to me, if the doors didn't open in the first place, I would be in a very different place. And that self-awareness, I think, almost, not guilt trip, but like it gave me a purpose to come back and teach. I love teaching. It's a core principle that I implement in all the restaurants, even when I do consultations outside of Mia, like even at Tommy's, it's a culture that we really nurture, and I get such a kick out of it. Teaching someone, like simple things like brining meat. Holy shit! If I could film the reactions of my staff the first time I show them side by side when you brine a breast of chicken and you don't brine a breast of chicken and you cook them exactly the same way.
You should do a school, man. You have the patience. I don't. I mean, I can't be bothered. Leave me alone and just don't talk to me. That's my style of leadership.
Highly doubt that.
No, it is true. It's true.
No, come on. You're one of the few chefs that I know that have kept the same team. Come on, I think Garima, you're not giving yourself enough credit. Like, they're so there. The people. I did a.
It's not because I taught them how to brine chicken. I'll tell you that much.
Well, you taught them something.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. You should ask. You should.
I will. I'll get some. I'll get Marvin and some.
Yeah, get Tirana on next. She could probably tell you a lot of stuff. She probably is a better person to do a podcast with because she has a lot of content, real content.
Yeah. Okay, we'll put that in. Yeah.
Because I process reality very differently. Like, I don't notice the day to day. I'm just in my own trip most of the time, and I do my own thing. And I guess that's what kind of makes people think that makes me thick-skinned or whatever. But it's not that. It's just I'm not paying attention.
Do you have ADHD?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? I got diagnosed.
Even if I did, I wouldn't care enough to be got. Oh, really? Are you?
Yeah. Michelle asked me to get diagnosed.
But wait, I tell my husband the same thing. So, and I
like, top, please go. And I was like, are you sure? Is it gonna really help? And it has helped. It has helped a lot. And and I think for her, she can be assured that it's not me not paying attention. It's just how I am.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes we would have a conversation mid-meal and then I would just completely override what she said and talk about something else, like a bird on the window. And that would, and for her, I think her love language is like obviously quality time. And having
I think
someone
that's the major difference between men and women, isn't it? So
the thing is,
by that definition, every man is
my parents
ADHD.
are the opposite. Yeah. My mom has ADHD, severe ADHD, and my dad is the one who's like super, like he wants your attention, and my mom will never give it to him ever. Yeah. And he's just like, oh.
That's called playing hard to get. That's how you happened.
Okay, so I just want to touch in. So you opened Gaa. I remember going there for the first time. And it was a fantastic meal. It really, really was. And what I've noticed was, so there was two things about Gaa. One, when I first went there, I was like, wow, I'm so happy someone is cooking this type of food. And as you said, for me, every decade, there's been one chef that goes, they transcend beyond restaurants, recognition. For me, they transcend to the point of like, they change the world cooks. And very few people do that. And I feel like in the 90s to 2000 was Abuli. He has changed the way that the world cooks. 2000 to 2010, what in my opinion was maybe because I'm more biased because I was in the UK, was Heston Blumenthal. He changed the way that things were systemized and organized. And definitely 2010, 2020, without a shadow of a doubt, was definitely Noma, Rene. He changed the way that people saw localization of ingredients, education through food, just the cultural setup of paying for, he basically made the world question the word value. Because value before him, I felt, was very caviar, very foie gras, very, the luxury ingredients. He basically changed the way people perceive luxury. And
I think it's not just the ingredients, it's also the chef's ability. That's where he took the game. You could put caviar on anything, uni on anything or whatever, and then, great, you're a great chef. But can you do the same with seaweed? Can you do the same with the little moss thing that they had? Could you do it with that? Could you do it with, say, a local ingredient that we find here? I don't know, durian. Could you do that with that? My, it's you take a humble ingredient and it's just not putting it on the menu and then doing something special with it that makes your guests go like, oh, this is something new. Oh, this is different. Well, it makes you think. When food, of course, it has to taste good. That's basic. I think sometimes we just walk away. We get so caught up in our own vanity that we think some chefs and chefs at this level, right? Like when you start chasing these lists and the stars, you give into the vanity of stories and of things that are out in the air and are not physical. But you have to understand the food, for one, has to be tasty and delicious. That's the first thing. That's the most important thing. And then it's got to make you think. Like when it's tasty, and it also makes you go like, what happened here? Why did he do that? Why did the chef do that? Oh, that's so funny. Do I like it? Where have I had this before? I think I like it. I don't know. This is new. That to me is the feeling I chase. You know, when you taste something for the first time and you go like, what is this? Isn't that exciting? Isn't that fun?
It is.
And if you can get that in a restaurant every time you go and then they surprise you, maybe textures, maybe use of ingredients, combination of flavors, whatever, a technique, whatever it is, they surprise you. That to me is a win. And Noma does that dish after dish, season after season, menu after menu. That's what makes that place so special. Yeah.
And what do you think has been the biggest factor for your evolution of food? Because from a fan outside eating, I think I've eaten at Gaa, 5-6 times, and been very, very fortunate to have seen the progress and stages of your food. And the one thing that is obviously glaringly obvious is your reconnection to your roots. And I'm asking this from a very selfish point of view because as a Thai chef who cooks Western food, I've not touched Thai food, I think purely out of like respect for the cuisine. I feel like there are so many more people who are deservingly so, have studied it all their lives, basically done their due diligence to do the honor to cook Thai food. And I've made sure, maybe in a bad way or a good way, I don't know, I've made subconsciously sure that I stay clear out of that. Because it's not about taking anything away from them. It's just like I feel like it's such something I have so much respect for that I don't dare put it on because I always feel like I won't live up to the reputation that it has. So how did you did you have that doubt or insecurity, or did you ever be like, just because I'm Indian I shouldn't be cooking Indian food, or did you have any of that, like almost like identity crisis? No. Or maybe that's just me.
No.
It's true. Like every time there is something that's remotely Thai tasting, I question myself. I'm like, I'm only putting this on because I'm Thai. And I don't know what it is. And look, who knows? Maybe one day I will open a Thai fine dining restaurant and I will explore but it was inspiring to see that you were, the evolution of your food has obviously been more Indian leaning in the last, I would say, since you moved to the new location actually. And was there a reason for that, or was it just a natural evolution of you cooking what you ate, or was it just, or did you not even realize it, or?
Maybe I didn't realize it. I don't know. I just always cook what I feel like eating.
Yeah.
If I enjoy something, I will put it on the menu. I have never constricted myself to I don't know. Of course, when I'm working, when we're doing R&D, I always tap into techniques from back home, flavors from back home. That's natural, right? Because when you're trying to put together something, everything that you eat at Gaa doesn't have it's not a recipe that we've picked up from somewhere. Everything is something that we have created by ourselves. So it doesn't have a point of reference in that way where I see a traditional recipe and now I'm going to recreate it. It's never that. So when you're putting together something new for the first time, I'm chasing, like I told you, that moment of aha, like, oh, this is something new. And everything we do is towards that. So when you're working towards that and you're putting things together, you're tasting things, it's but naturally you'll go to flavors that you grew up with, flavors that you enjoy, flavors that you love.
Yeah.
It's only natural, I feel. Yeah. I don't think too much about it when we're putting things together, man. Really, I go with instinct, I go with guts. Of course, we have a beginning point, a starting point, which is well rooted in reason. It has to make I say the five journalism questions, right? The who, when, what, where, why. You have to apply it to a dish. It has to answer those questions. Once it does, after that, you're free to do whatever you want to do. I mean, you can't constantly stick to a recipe or to a technique just because they did it like that 100 years ago. You have to do it today. It's a great starting point, but every cook who made something new dared defy tradition in a way, didn't they?
Oh, for sure. I mean, and I think a lot of people forget that every classic was an innovative dish at one point.
Yeah, it was one of the.
Yeah, I mean, like, you take a beurre blanc. The first time someone made that beurre blanc, and they tasted it, like, what? I mean, for me, anyways, like the first time I tasted any classical sauces, purees, when I tried for the first time, I'm like, holy shit! Like, no wonder it's a classic. Like the first time I had creme brulee, I was like 16, and never had a creme brulee before. I didn't even know what they were.
Yeah,
and
it needs to be cerebral. Like your approach to food needs to be cerebral, but not. You shouldn't over intellectualize it. That's where fun goes to die. You want to have fun when you eat. You've got to. Like when I'm eating, I want to see movement of hands on the table, like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Your fingers are messy. Like food has to be fun, and sometimes when we do fine dining, we take the fun away from it all.
We really do. We really do, and it's a very easy trap to fall in, especially when you first start. Everyone's guilty of it. I know I am. I look back at some dishes that I created, even at Freebird, when it was a casual restaurant. And I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like,
I have that feeling about our previous menu. It's like, it's like when you see a picture of yourself from, I don't know, 2009, 2010 at a nightclub, and you go like, did I wear that out in public? It's one of those things. You look at your first menu, you go like, I put that on the menu. That's horrible.
Oh, yeah.
But that's how you grow up, right?
Yeah, it's true. And it's No, it's very true. It's very true. And the great thing about it, and also I think the danger of it, is that there is no right and wrong. Yeah. It's such it's like music. Food is such a personal thing.
That is something that we have to remember. This is what I tell my chefs as well. Lists are great to be on. Stars are great to have. Being recognized, the validation, it feels good. But that cannot define how you do things and why you do things. The minute that tends to happen, you will start hating your job. You will constantly be going around in circles wondering why not this and why not that? Why didn't that come my way? Why didn't this come? This is not why you do this job. If that is why you're doing it, don't. You're going to be miserable. Everybody around you is going to be miserable. You're going to live a very short and unhappy life. You have to... It's work. You have to create value. That's the most important thing. If you don't have bums and seats at the end of the night, doesn't matter how many awards you have on the shelf. It doesn't matter. What would you rather have? Would you rather have all the awards in the world and an empty dining room? Which, let's face it, fine dining today is like that. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest about it. So what would you rather have? Or would you have like a casual restaurant which does honest to good, real food, which people love, and there's a waiting list for 2 months? What would you rather have?
2 months waiting list.
That's it. Let's be honest. That's what we all want.
Yeah.
But somewhere in the way of chasing fame and chasing the accolades, we're forgetting what people actually want. They just want to be fed good, tasty food and want to have a good time. So, if you're not feeding a demand, if you're not creating value, then you have to question what we're doing, really, right?
For sure.
And this is something that I feel that more chefs I speak to in our day and age, in our time, at the same level that we guys are all working at, everybody is like, oh, but, maybe I should open a casual restaurant. This isn't working. What's going wrong? But it's time to think. People have evolved. People have access to all these fine ingredients that you are now putting on your menu. They have access to all of that. Why do they come to your restaurant?
Yeah, where's the value?
Yeah, why do they go?
Value?
So maybe we need to question ourselves again. Why do people go out? Things have changed and things are changing really, really fast. We have been through a pandemic. We live in the age and world of AI. change is the only constant. It's happening at a faster and faster pace. But we seem to be still stuck in pre-COVID times where we're talking about, you know, yeah, let's do a 10-course meal and here's my caviar in a tin. But people can buy that themselves. Why are they sitting in your restaurant? What is it that new you're giving them?
What you're touching in is something that so I'm very analytic in a sense, like I love to observe the industry from afar, from a fan, first and foremost. I always view myself as a diner, and where do I spend my hard-earned money? Because I feel like that's what stops a lot of people from, eating by dining, because it's expensive. It's very expensive.
Yeah. When was the last time you went to a fine dining restaurant?
I can't afford it myself.
That's it. There you go.
I really, really, and, it got to a point where I'm just like, so why do these people come out? And like you said, the whole list and the star thing, it's a very valid question, and it's a very valid point. And going back to the first thing you said in this podcast, you need to have a purpose. And if that purpose purely is chasing those accolades, which should be a byproduct of doing a fulfilled job, feeding people, and most importantly, having enough money, oxygen, because cash is oxygen in the industry.
Yeah.
No matter how rich you are or no matter how big your corporate backing up is, if you are bleeding too much at some point, the plug will be pulled.
You're running a business. You have to, and that's number one, you have to create value in a business for it to be successful, for it to run. And it's not fair that you do a business for your own vanity, because there are employees part of that business that need to grow with you as well. So this feeling of over consuming and kind of not giving back, this is a solid example of that, isn't it? Like, you can't just be so vain that you keep creating to fulfill your feeling of what food should be, but not listening to what people around you really want.
I think a lot of chefs struggle with that a lot, especially. And I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this, but especially Western food in Bangkok, I feel like, and it's a different genre because it's something that people don't eat all the time. And, people don't eat Western food. And especially when you come to Thailand, you don't really tend to be like, okay, let's go have French or Italian, fine dining.
It depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from the Western hemisphere, then of course not. But if you're coming from anywhere in Asia, Bangkok's a great spot to
it's a lot
eat
cheaper.
world cuisine.
Yes,
exactly.
I agree. I totally.
And it's much cheaper than other places or like other Asian cities.
For sure. I mean, you compare to Hong Kong and Singapore,
but it's soon going that way.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. The more I go to Singapore and eat out, and I compare to Bangkok, I was like, we're not that far off, really. But no, I think Bangkok's a great city to, we have a lot of Indian friends who come over, Indian guests who come over. They love trying, of course, the Italian fare. The city has the Japanese. I mean, it's such a great place to have Japanese food outside of Japan.
Honestly, I think outside of Japan, there's not many places that beats us for value.
No.
Given the trade deal we've had with Japan from a very long time, and the communities that have been built here, because we were one of the few trading partners after they pissed off the whole world with World War II. We were the only ones who were. And that's why I think we were never colonized, Yeah. It's just that every time a country came to Thailand, we gave them what they wanted. So everyone just left us alone. Very clever.
I'm not going to comment on that. Let's move on. Suddenly this becomes a political...
Let's stay clear of that. Because we'll be here for hours. So I do think that the Japanese... it's so many options. So
many options. So like if I was coming from Mumbai, I would come to Bangkok and I would just spend like a week here gaining weight, spending my money, and like trying different cuisines,
Best holiday.
It's a fun place to be. And I mean, it's a great place to be a diner. It's a shitty place to be a restaurateur. You know what I mean? In the moment.
For you, in your entrepreneurial, so there's two other topics that I want to touch in before we, wrap up. One, so the only ever time that so growing up in the UK, anything BBC related, for me was always like the credibility score was high. Because I obviously with the media and the news outlet. And I remember seeing you come up on the BBC app as the first Indian woman to receive a Michelin star. And I swear to God, in all my life, I have never screenshotted on my phone anything BBC related.
I'm a
And I was looking for it last night, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I thought that I'm sure I posted about it because I was doing some homework before coming here, and yeah, it was
I believe you, Shafi.
yeah. Look,
Oh, that's embarrassing.
that photo was amazing.
Oh my god. Oh, this is
Yeah, I posted about it. I posted about it a while back. When someone you know makes history, well done, Garima. So stoked for you and your team. Anyone visiting Bangkok should defo.
Defo.
So 2014. Check them out. How? Because obviously it's history. It is, one of the world's biggest countries. There are so many scattered Indian communities all over the world, and a lot of them are already. I know that Michelin only came to Thailand, but why do you think? Because I was quite surprised. I had no idea that you were the first Indian woman to receive a Michelin star, given how many Indian restaurants there are in like the U.S., in Europe, and obviously the Indian communities are scattered all over the world. So, I mean, how did it make you feel? How did you honestly feel? Because I know that I want this to be like, yeah, how did it make you feel?
I'll be honest, I didn't even think about it. When it happened, somebody had to mention this to me a few days after we got the call that you might just be the first woman to have done it. It still didn't have the impact that it should have on me. Like, I didn't quite appreciate it for what it was. It's one of those things. I think it was how I was, again, raised, right? I didn't think too much about my gender. I didn't think about why I was given certain opportunities or why I wasn't. I just worked through things. Of course, we wanted that star. I'm not going to deny it. When we opened Gaa, we didn't get it the first year. Yeah, that was disappointing, but we got it the next year, and then that was validating. That was great to have. It's not something that we work towards. Again, I didn't change anything. I mean, what we did before we got the star and after, nothing changed. Even today, we have the second. We didn't even change our prices. It's the same. That validation is good to have, but that validation doesn't change who we are and what we do before we got it. That's just how I have honestly processed this whole thing. And then somebody from India got in touch with me, a journalist. I don't know how it got to them. And then it blew up. And then it just went viral. It went crazy. Everybody picked up on it. And that's when I realized maybe it's a big thing. I mean, I never thought about it. I just worked. And because I was raised in a way where I wasn't treated differently by my family for being a girl or not being a boy, or I was.
Is that rare?
It is. It's growing up in.
Pry on your heritage and your culture, but like.
No, it is. It is rare. It is rare.
Even to this day.
Yes. To a large extent, yes, it is.
Wow. Okay.
You'll be surprised. Yeah. It really is. But it's just the family that I come from. My father is just way ahead of his times. He doesn't even think like that, and I think I get that from him. I don't even process reality like that. So. Yeah, I'm very, very lucky. I'm very lucky because I know of people personally, of women personally, girls personally who haven't had the same, come from really, really good families, a lot of money, a lot of opportunities, but their future was always decided for them in so many ways. And it's not that they were forced into it. It was, you kind of make peace with it because that's what you're taught, that, okay, this is what my life is going to be. I'm going to turn 20, 21. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have kids. I'm going to move to my in-laws' house. And that's what my life is going to be like, which is nothing wrong in it. Honestly, today, being a parent, I enjoy being a mother so much. And if this wasn't ingrained in me so much, or I didn't, like I said, didn't have the death wish of being a chef, or it didn't define me to such an extent, it probably would not work, and I would love to be a stay-at-home mom. I'll be honest. It's the biggest lie sold to women, that they need to go to work and need to go to work and need to do all of these things. You can choose. Being a woman is so special because you can choose. You can choose to be a mother. You can choose to raise beautiful children, make them grow up to be, good human beings, and that's your life's work. Imagine, like, I was talking to Darren yesterday, and we were like, my biggest fear is if my children grow up to be assholes.
Because he has kids, right?
He has 2 kids. And that's something we have in common, right? So we always bond over that and we talk about children and family a lot. So I love having a family, and I started my family pretty late I mean, I'm 37 now, and it's by many standards very late to have kids. But but if you choose to do this earlier, it doesn't take anything away from you. If you choose not to have children and concentrate on your career and want all of those things for yourself, great, go ahead, own it. As a woman, you can do anything you want. Men don't have this luxury. Men have to do only one thing, which is go to work every day and, provide for family. You don't have a choice. But women do have a choice, which is such a beautiful thing. And you can't diss women for choosing either or diss women for choosing both, because that's difficult too. Mom guilt is a real thing, man. When you're with your child, you're thinking about all the work that's pending at the office, and then when you're at work, you're thinking about, oh my God, did I spend enough time with my child? Did I take him out enough? Is it too much screen time? Have I fed him well? Is it enough vitamins? Is he, 10,000 things about your child that's going on in your head. So it's the worst demand that we ask of women is to leave their kids at home and go to work. It's horrible.
Honestly, when the 2 chefs that in the last 3-4 years, like Pam as well, you guys basically started a business while being a mother, almost overlapping each other. So, when you moved, the stress that would have already caused, and obviously, I find it's like one of the world's biggest accomplishments to be a chef, to be an owner chef.
Because our job is 25 hours a day, man. And you throw in a baby and a family in there, it's mad.
Men will never know. We will never know the mental stress toll, the physical toll of bearing a child and having a responsible for a human being on top of everything else. Because doing that alone is already extremely difficult.
It is.
And honestly, I applaud all mothers out there. Even the ones that don't have a business, it's just like the responsibility of forever.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And
it puts all the other shit that you used to stress about in perspective, right?
Absolutely. It's so
like,
true.
It's mad.
Because, when I go out these days, I look at adults just being bad, and I'm like, what happened to you as a child? Weren't you loved enough? Weren't you held enough? But you look at every adult in terms of, a child and how they were treated as a child. Because today, when you have a child of your own, you understand, and I'm sure you will one day as well, that it is so important to give them a strong moral compass. And my biggest fear is what if he's woke? But other than that, it's just what if he's not a good human? Well, I mean, that's a direct reflection on me. I don't care about those Google reviews, but that review I don't want to fail. You know what I mean? If he is 30, 35 and he's just a shitty human being, then that's a review I don't want, man.
But what about varying a bit off topic, do you think that's more of his responsibility than yours, or is it equal? It's yours?
It's mine.
Yeah.
I think parents play a very, very important role in raising children well. And I believe that because of the values that my parents have instilled in me. I think everything that I am, everything that I've achieved, my sense of right and wrong, my ability to stand up for my principles to a point where I've alienated so many people, but I will never stand up for something I don't believe in or something I think is wrong. I will call it out. But that strength of being okay to being disliked or not being popular is perfectly fine with me, because I think I'm confident enough in what I believe. And I know what I believe is right. And that's it. My circle of friends is very small. People who work at Gaa, they stay for long and, stayed so long. And they are the kind of people that I'm proud to call my team, because they have a good moral compass.
I think the biggest compliment for me, anyways, when I view the team in Gaa, is that some of them have left and they've come back. I think that is the biggest compliment any chef entrepreneur can have. When you it's I think it was Richard Branson who famously quoted, you train them well enough so they can leave, and then you treat them well enough so they don't. And that is so true. And when you think of it from a very business point of view, the biggest cost for any business is basically looking and training new staff. And if people took that into an equation, a mathematical equation, and invest in that department a bit more, in long terms, they go hand in hand, like the staff morale and the staff fulfillment and the business with everything, all the goals that you want to achieve. I feel like it overlaps more than a lot of people think, especially in this day and age where you can choose. There's so many jobs out there. So the other thing that I want to touch. So you're now the MasterChef judge of India. How has that been? Has that been a roller coaster?
It's been fun.
Yeah?
It's not something that I would have probably done 5 years ago. But
I think you're so good at it though. I mean, I've only seen like clips.
Oh my God, you have?
Yeah, I think you're.
See, it's one of those things like you talked about, like when you hear yourself talk or you hear yourself on the camera, you're just like, ew, what's wrong with this person? I've not seen a single episode.
Have you not?
I've not. I could never watch it.
Really?
Can't.
I think you're very charismatic, and I think you underestimate how many people look up to you. How many young women and boys, it's not just gender related, but like so many people look at you and the fearlessness of just going out there and doing something off the beaten path. Because like it is the route, the road that you've been on is not traditional and it's very uncommon. You took a risk on yourself to stage at Noma. You earned the right to work there, which very few people have the right to even say. And, you've taken a leap of faith and moved to a country that you never planned to move to, open a restaurant that has added value to the industry and diners, I feel, and, created a team that will be someone someday. I'm sure of it. All the core people will be someone someday. And to do that and be an inspiration and be a mother at the same time. You crammed that all in 8 years. It's extremely.
You're making it sound a lot more than it is.
But look, and thank you again for coming on this podcast. So I always want to end the podcast with three things. So I'm gonna start it off with, if you had three chefs, who would you cook for? Okay, it's almost like kiss, marry, and sleep with kind of thing, but a lot more PG. So, which chef would you cook for? Which chef would you have dinner with? And which chef would you want to work under?
Wow, that's a. Yeah, I don't think I can fairly answer that question. Cook for there are two or three at this moment.
Pick one.
That I'm waiting for Renee to come to the restaurant. Of course. That's of course
Please book me a table next to him so I can just say hello, hi, FC.
Yeah, but he's a busy man. So, but yeah, of course, it would be so nice to, finally somebody you've looked up to all your career, somebody who's knowingly and unknowingly both ways been a mentor to me. So I would love to have him over for dinner, of course. Cook, and then the second one was cook with.
Have dinner with.
Have dinner with.
Yeah.
Have dinner with, like a chef to have dinner with?
Yeah, someone you can learn from, talk to. So not necessarily like, more like feeding from their brains. So you like have a chat or curiosity or someone that you inspired from or, and like, they don't have to be chefs per se, but anyone within the industry, FME industry, Has there been anyone you've ever come across be like, I would love to open a bottle of wine with him and just have dinner?
So many, man. So many bottles open and so many of those conversations I already had. Hard to say one. Hard to say one. Let's see. I really can't think of anybody.
Or most recent one then?
Can we not do this part?
Yeah.
You just edit it out because I can't think of anything.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And who would you wish you had worked under if you had your time again? Is there been any chef in the last decade that you were like, wow?
I don't know, not a chef, but I've always thought that I wish I worked more for free. I will say that out loud. I wish I interned more, I staged more. I wish I hadn't taken vacations in my 20s. I took holidays. That's the most stupid thing you can do in your 20s. And I tell my chefs the same thing. You don't need vacation. You have a month off. Pick 5 skills. Let's say baking, let's say butchery, let's say fermentation, whatever. Take 5 skill sets, 5 years of your life, every holiday that you have, that 1 month, 1.5 month, a year, go and stash with the best name in that field. At end of those 5 years, other than also having a full-time job, you would be so thankful you did all of that. The amount of skill and amount of ability that's going to give you, you may not appreciate it in that moment. Might want to go to Krabi with your friends on a holiday. Fuck that, skip that. But when you're 30 and opening your restaurant, all that experience is going to come in handy.
People don't talk about that enough. Chef's career is so short. It's
Yeah.
almost like a footballer, and you get paid 1% of what they earn. You have like almost 10 to 12 years to skill stack, learn, absorb, and the double-edged sword is you have to stay somewhere long enough to learn everything. Otherwise, like I said, the referring of like 1,000 points in NOMA and 500 points, if you don't take when the time that you're there, is a wasted opportunity, and you're not going to get it again.
You're never going to get it.
You rarely go back to the same restaurant unless you come in as a management or a different position or a different job.
And the older you get, it's harder to go back and do those kind of jobs.
Yeah.
Like at 40, you don't want to be like peeling potatoes or picking thyme in the kitchen. You can't be doing that.
And you physically also, it's a different.
That's it.
Different. It's a different. It's a physical labor of love.
It's a very physically demanding job. So yeah, if you want to be a good, successful chef, your 20s should only be about working.
Yeah, I agree.
Work
And
as much as you can.
so far, and it's not like we're not saying that it has to be this or some people start really really late and they still find success. But I'm just saying and I agree with you, people don't take into account the holiday with your friends. If they're your real friends, they can wait.
They can wait.
They can wait. But, from personal experience, though, it's torturous. I remember starting, and all my friends were at uni. They were all going back to Thailand, to Phuket during Christmas, and I would see them on Facebook. And, that, in my career, that was probably the most agonizing thing. And the worst part was, I was only a phone call away. I could have... most people don't have a choice, right? When they start working, they need to work. They need to find money and all that, and they don't really have a backup plan. I feel like it's more torturous when you do have a choice, when you can throw in the towel, and then you choose not to. And that's was the struggle that I had to deal with. In when all my friends were at uni, going out, staying at 5-star hotels in Phuket, Christmas on a boat, on a yacht, and I was fucking in the London Underground, working for minimum wage, being like, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
Yeah, but...
And then when they come out of uni and they're like 24 in debt, and then I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's the feeling is unparalleled. So the last question is a big L word. And obviously, it's legacy. I always love this word because I feel, especially people who are, and hopefully maybe in 10 years' time, we could have a chat again in this very room and we'll have a very different conversation because I feel like it's been such an honor to talk to you outside of work events, just literally, And this is why I wanted to do this podcast. It's genuinely asking questions that I want to ask for selfish reasons, intrinsically. And then I think it's good enough to share. And I do think that it adds value. Definitely, this hour and a bit has added so much value to my time.
It was so much fun. It's great to talk.
I'm so grateful that you have chosen to come on. And, and I think that it could benefit the community. I really do see this as a way of giving back to the chefing community. Even big or small, and it's not a marketing platform. It's unscripted. There's no plan. I gave her questions that I will talk about last night at midnight. I don't think you saw them until this morning.
No, I mean, I wake up at 5 a.m. with my kid. Yeah. I go to bed at 9:30 these days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't. I don't even do my second service full rounds. I just go meet the guests first round.
Okay.
I can't, man. It's humanly impossible to stay up for 18 hours a day.
Oh my God, 5:30, that's crazy.
Yeah, but he wakes up at 5:30, so I have to be up with him.
If you could, and I know that we should ever work towards this, but if there was ever a legacy that if you were to leave this earth, God forbid, what would be the legacy, or what would you want people to remember you for, if there is anything? Have you ever thought about that?
I'd be lying if I said I haven't. But I also feel like it's too early to think about it.
Yeah?
I think I still have a lot of work to do before I kind of figure that part out. I think you start thinking about that.
It's a dangerous road, huh?
Yeah, it's self-indulgent, and I was like,
probably not a very good question to end.
No, it is. No, it is because
No, 'cause
Everybody thinks about it.
the reason I ask is because I want to ask now and then I want to ask again.
Yeah, no, fair. No, I totally get why you're asking this. It's not a bad question. Yeah, it's just something I really haven't thought about yet. I know it has to be something. I really don't. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know yet.
You don't know? Okay.
I don't know yet.
And it'll change. Definitely will.
Yeah.
No, I mean.
You only hope that you leave. Your work kind of is a starting point for the next generation of Indian cooks to come and pick up and work on further. I think that's important. Indian cuisine for the longest time has been very closely guarded, especially from the professional side of things, where recipes and spice mixes and whatever have you have been family kept secrets for generation after generation. Indian chefs for the longest time, we've never believed in kind of propping each other up. It's always very cutthroat for some reason. You always step over other people to feel better or pull them down to be better. That's the way the industry had worked for the longest time, but that's changing so fast already.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Honestly, thank God. It was a very, I remember just like working through that, and definitely the community has opened up.
Yeah.
They had to.
So the stagnation of Indian cuisine that probably happened in the 1890s or even before that, like what we've exported in the name of Indian cuisine is curries and naan, and that's not our food, man.
No.
That's not how we eat. That is maybe a very, very small part and a very small part of our history and a very small part of what the country has to offer. But that's what's been exported internationally, and that's what's called Indian food, is because one, there was never a community push or chefs pushing together to put real Indian food out, because you have to be able to support each other. It's not one person's job to do this, right? You have to support each other. There has to be pride in your cuisine. There has to be pride in your regional cuisine. I think all of that is changing now and changing so fast. So for the longest time, those 30, 40 years in Indian food, especially post-independence for us, it kind of stagnated. Things stagnated when it came to cuisine and people's understanding of it, our bookkeeping of it, our cataloging of it. We didn't pay attention to it. But so when we started, or when I started in Indian cooking, or when I started cooking, I didn't have a lot of resources to start off with. It felt like if I wanted to know the cuisine of some small little village in some small little part of India, there was no way for me to know that. So I feel that the least what we can do with this generation of chefs is probably work hard enough to give the next generation a starting point. So our work should help them take it further, not be like, oh, you have to now start from scratch.
There's one scientist on Instagram who basically dissects history of India, and I think I got a follow from Joel, the chef Chancesh, and he basically breaks down the chemical compounds of chilies and spices and reactions and stuff.
Oh, are you talking about the Masala Lab, the guy who wrote Masala?
Yes,
he's so good.
Oh my God, he's so inspirational.
Yeah,
because
amazing.
For me, especially Asian cuisine, like all different regions, like they have
What's his name? Ashok. What's his name? The book is Masala Lab, right? No, wait.
Yeah, I think so.
He's Krish, yes,
yeah.
Krish something. He's amazing, isn't he?
God.
Yeah, just
because like you said, bookkeeping, categorizing it, and then having an explanation of why we do things that we do. And what, because like Asian cuisine, the complexity of seasoning is insane.
Yeah.
And there's like no mathematical, but in some way, I know that is a double-edged sword, because it could be science and it could be art, and when you combine the two, sometimes people feel very uncomfortable about it. Like you're not going to go ask your grandmother why she puts that in her curry and stuff. But what he does, and I recommend everyone to follow this guy, even if you're if you're a chef and you're interested in food, this guy is a must follow. I'm obsessed. I've scrolled back to like content he made 2 years ago.
Yeah,
it's just knowledge, and it's amazing, detailed, accurate. Well, I'm not, no one is
I mean,
but
maybe it's not even accurate, but there's a reasoning to it. See,
Yeah.
history is very convoluted like that. You don't know where things come from and
no.
is it really true? But okay, the fact that it wasn't cataloged or written down, and we have influences from so many different colonizers. It's hard to say what actually happened or did not happen, but
course.
you can trace it down to some logical beginning and be like, this could have been it.
Yes.
And he does that well.
Yeah.
He does that really well. So no, I love watching his videos. But the same way is, did you spend any time with Hanuman up north?
Not yet.
You should go.
It is the biggest culinary crime I have had, and I really,
All
really.
this hesitation that you have with Thai food, he's gonna fix it, man. That guy, he's. See, you meet like, okay, maybe that's the chef I would want to sit down and open a bottle of wine.
Yeah?
And he's
Okay,
and-
fine. That's what I was waiting for. Just delaying
Fine.
you. with-
but he's on a very strict keto diet, which okay, most of the time I am as well. But he's only eating like meat these days, and I don't think he drinks anymore. Does it drink anyway? Doesn't matter. Point being, he's a very logical in his approach to Thai cuisine. If you thought that Thai cuisine couldn't be logically broken down into the whys and hows and what's, he'll do it for you.
Honestly, I'm getting emotional thinking about it because like
You're amazing.
it's the biggest dark question that I've had over my head. Because I'm a very like when people think when I talk to journalists, I have a very scientific black and white. And Michelle's the opposite.
Yeah.
Michelle's more of an artist. I'm not. I'm super analytic, logical,
Yeah.
like out blanching water for certain vegetables have different percentages of salt. And I really do that just to eliminate variables because I hate variables in cooking. And it's very robotic. And I was never like this until I met my sous chef who used to work for Heston Blumenthal. And then he opened my eyes to, and it's like, it's a red line, you prioritize consistency and variable cutting at the cost of teaching your staff how to actually cook. And it's something at Mia that I've always found difficult to balance with. Because I was always taught when I grew up working in classical French restaurants, you need to learn to cook, you need to learn to season, you need to learn to taste. But then when you're running a business, you're teaching it at a cost of what? The customer, yourself, your own money, your own stress for the staff.
Yeah.
And like that could come later. And it was the biggest successful switch. And like I said, we got to start with like 8. That's why we got to start with 8 first timers. Because we took out any variable possible out of their day. And then we added later when they become good enough to,
Handle it.
yeah.
Fair enough.
And it's a very systematic organizational way. And it's super unromantic. It goes against every PR marketing bullshit that you ever hear. I do not cook with feelings.
Yeah.
I cook with logic. And I think the artistic side comes in, other things, flavor combination, choice of ingredients, flow of the menu. And
Yeah, everybody's got to follow some rules. You can be creative only if you have rules to follow. You have to have, you're trying to do something, create something new. If you don't have cornerstones of how to create something new, how the hell can you create it? So rules are important, and to each their own rules. So just because you follow rules or you have a systematic way of doing it doesn't mean chaos doesn't mean creative. That is, I don't know why people think that just because somebody's chaotic and is larger than life, that means they are creative. I don't think so.
I think it's a lie people tell themselves.
Yeah.
It's a lie I used to tell myself. Because when we first started Mia, especially when we switched to fine dining, I was very unorganized. And I used to blame my ADHD or and I used to tell Michelle like, oh, I'm a creative person, that's why. And she's like, no, don't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
You're just lazy.
Yeah.
You're just fucking lazy. It's just like, get your shit together. And I'm like, yeah, chef.
I'm glad she did that. Okay, I should head out now.
All right.
Time to pick up baby.
Garima, thank you so much.
Thank you. This
it
has been so good.
Absolute joy. Jesus, I can't believe
We have to do this in 10 years again and see where we've
Let's not wait. Let's do it next year. First year anniversary next year. I'll have you back.
Perfect.
Chef, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Chefy. Thank you.